I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Vita and Chip and no, Booby's here. Nice try, babe. And Culpy. Oh, Culpy. I turned him off so that way he might survive longer because if you leave them running, they tend to die. I don't know. He already looks a little lighter because I had him on for days. For days. Where did Vin go? Are we recording? Go. What's happening here?
I need my protection. We're listening to black metal.
Oh, he went to get his crucifix.
It's not a crucifix, you weirdo.
What is it? It's a rosary.
A rosary. It's not a crucifix.
What's this on the end?
It's a picture of Jesus.
On a cross.
It's not a crucifix. A crucifix is a... I'm not going to explain this to you.
You're moody.
I don't want to keep having to deal with these people.
Listen, if you guys want any of our merch, it's down on the bottom. And it's also... You can click on it, and there's like 5 pages of all kinds of different stuff. Phone cases, blankets, pillows, all kinds of different stuff. And we're going to be coming up with some new stuff also in that shop. So there's going to be plenty there. But anyway, the gender reveal is on my channel, My Sori Life. So if you want to know if this is a boy or a girl, that's where you need to go. And if you want to hear, you know, all about the local...
I took a break from the political conversation. We had a pretty heavy discussion. So, Middle America will be jumping up pretty soon here, and then we will be reinitiating live streams very soon. But I'm trying to do some family time. Okay. BURZUM.
Shout out to Daniel.
Shout out to the big homie Daniel, one of our loyal patrons. Key to the Gate. So BURZUM, we've learned is the black speech in Tolkien's what do you call it?
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings stuff.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because Tolkien was a very staunch Roman Catholic. Him and C.S. Lewis used to go back and forth. Mm-hmm. He almost converted Lewis to Catholicism.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, but Lewis couldn't get over the papal stuff.
Oh.
Couldn't do it.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah. They were both in World War I, all that good jazz. Yeah. So it's very interesting to me.
I heard that they both had the ideas of books to write, and then they decided, okay, you go with Lord of the Rings, and then I'm going to go with the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. Is that true?
Yeah, and Tolkien really didn't have much respect for Lewis's line. He was like, you got Santa, you got all this ridiculous.
Oh, and honestly, when you look at both stories, Lord of the Rings is better.
It's not even comparable.
No, yeah, so you have Santa.
Right. Get out of here.
I still appreciated the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and stuff, but it doesn't
Tolkien
compare.
had there's an entire dialect.
I know, he really went over the top.
All these histories and
well,
all
then maybe that's how C.S. Lewis was almost convinced, you know?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting to me that one of the seminal black metal bands of all time, the very good argument could be made that this guy is this is Varg, right? The racist dude?
I believe.
A very good argument. Hi, Varg. We're having our miscegenated child, by the way. A very good argument could be made for him being the most influential figure in black metal in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And his band is named after a Christian storyteller's book or whatever. You cannot escape it, Satan! Okay. Key to the Gate. For the first time you guys are watching this, we are 2 hardcore, Bible-believing, evangelical Christians.
Yep.
But we're going to listen to what y'all have to say. Mm-hmm. I just had to make sure I got my little rosary thing to protect me from the devil. D-E-B-B-I-L. Let's go!
And go. surprising.
What surprised you about it?
Well, it was the first time that I've ever had like a multifaceted experience with this type of music.
Interesting.
So like at the beginning when it started and his like vocals came out, I was like, whoa, that's really creepy sounding. Like that one was like really creepy sounding. And I was like, how if you don't have the lyrics, can you understand what's being said? What were you gonna say?
Well, yeah, I think it's impossible to understand what's being said without knowing the lyrics. You know, those would come in the sheets and stuff, in the jacket of the record. This one was like, I could definitely hear the musicianship. Mm-hmm. They did a lot of good work on the production of musicianship, but it's black metal, so they gotta, but the vocals were horrible, but that's black metal. Right?
I thought that the vocals fit this song perfectly.
Well, no, I don't mean that they were horrible in that they didn't fit. They were horrible in the sense that I couldn't decipher anything.
No, yeah.
Whereas the musicianship,
I could because the lyrics were here, but if they weren't, forget about it.
Right. The musicianship, I could decipher all the notes. I knew what was going on musically. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas the lyrics,
yeah.
But yeah, it definitely. Well, these lyrics were. It's really interesting. We talked about, when we're doing Grunge Week, how there's a lot of emotion and feeling in grunge, in the way that they project the situation, and we're talking about with death metal, it's always kind of like, one way of presenting the rah 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 Cookie Monster, but that's not what's happening here.
No,
he's not doing the Cookie Monster thing. I mean, he's not singing like a grunge artist would either. But it's not Cookie Monster, and it's very, very emotional.
It was extremely emotional, especially when he got down to, why did I come into this world of sorrow? Why is this so true? Where is my dagger of sacrifice?
Right.
When he did that part, and the sound that he made when he was singing it too, like it was almost like a cry that you could hear. Oh my word! It took my heart.
Yeah, he was very, very. The first time I heard a singer like go off script and be emotional, and then you could hear that it was emotional. Because before I had heard this particular song or this particular band, people were hitting notes and da-da-da-da. But this is my introduction, was Korn. On the first record, on the self-titled Korn record, you could hear him breathing, and you could hear him all the stuff that they edit out in the studio, it was there on that first Korn record. And of course, Daddy, he's crying at the end. But this one was like that too.
Yeah.
This one was a very, very emotional, very raw type of lyricism or presentation of the lyrics.
Yeah, it was weird because what he was saying, like, okay, so when it got to the end, why did I come into this world of sorrow? Why is this true? Where is my dagger of sacrifice? And then there was like this music in between, and then he says, I will open the gates to hell one day. And I was thinking about that. Remember when like Job, which most people know, Job lost everything, his family, he lost everything. The only thing that he was left with is boils on his skin. He was scraping himself with a pot. Right. I mean, his wife was still alive, but she was just like being like a negative influence, telling him, why don't you just curse God and die? And she wasn't being like a supportive wife or anything. Anyway, he said, he basically said it would have been better if my mom's womb would have never opened up. Like, he cursed the day that he was born and stuff like that. Right. And so I was like, this is actually common probably to the human experience, that at some point in your life you wish you had never been born, Well,
the other thing that's interesting is that Job talks about going down to Sheol.
Yes.
And Sheol in the Old Testament is the world of the dead.
Yep.
Which the King James sometimes translates as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Job kind of is talking about going down to hell.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean hell as in the Christian concept of, a place of torment, but it's going down into the world of the dead. Mm-hmm. Because he has, because of the pain and suffering and the sorrow that happens in this world that we all have to deal with.
Yeah.
I was talking to an atheist dude yesterday, and he was actually very angry and upset about the Book of Job, and he was using the Book of Job as one of the reasons why the God of the Bible is mean and da 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 da. And I'm like, look, I mean, I didn't say this to him, but one of the things that is convincing to me about Christianity is that there's a lot of utility in the real world, and in the real world, things like that happen. And there's got to be a way to look it in the face and say, why do these things happen?
Yeah.
What the hell is going on? If the God of the Bible just presented everything is all hunky-dory, then what's going to happen when you do face a crisis? When you do get a bad diagnosis? I was talking to one of our guys yesterday that was hanging out in the chat with us. Really good. I had never talked to him before. And it turns out the guy might have leukemia. It's like...
Well, he had it, and then...
Right.
It, was...
Yeah, which is just just a really hard. He was very, very. He was more positive, than I was. But it was just a very hard moment, because it's like.
Yeah.
But this is what happens in the real world, and so I'm grateful to God that Job is in the Bible, and I'm grateful to God that it's just so strange to me. Where we'll probably get more deep into the lyrics that he's probably talking to the devil. Saying he wants to go to the devil's heaven and the devil's paradise instead of God's.
Yeah, I think probably you're right. But it was interesting because at the end, like when he said that part, and I was thinking about Job, and then there's another part where it basically says like, there's like words to the wind. Like there's sometimes you say something, it doesn't mean that's what you actually mean. It's just because, or when you're really angry at somebody and you say like really hurtful things, and then after you're like calmed down, you're like, well, why did I say that? I don't even really think that.
Right.
Like, I literally don't know why I said that. So, like, God understands that we're like that. And so it was weird because when that part finished and then musically what it went into, like, I was just, of course, I had been talking to a friend of ours today and he was telling me his story and it was extremely heavy. Like, so like I had that on my mind and just like what can actually happen in a single person's life, and the tragedy and the horror and the sorrow that can be encompassed in just a single soul. And it's just mind-blowing sometimes how, and even, like I had seen somebody's post on Facebook and they were very, very down and basically saying, how am I ever going to get out of this place, And then, you have this other person who's been through a whole lot and they're saying they're not letting it take them down. Like they're going to, they're going to move forward and they're growing as a person and like growing in empathy toward other people and stuff like that, and just not allowing the past to dictate to them their future, but allowing that to like make them stronger and stuff. And it was just wild, but anyway, like as the music started around that part, I'm not sure if it was between Sacrifice and I Will Open the Gates or if it was after.
There was a pretty melodic solo between that.
It was so like, for me it was so prayerful, like, and so like I was like, maybe I don't know, like where this guy was at when he wrote it. Like maybe he was just straight trying to talk to the devil or whatever.
Well, it's Varg.
But at the same time, you don't know, because sometimes like people are not always one thing. So just because there's still times where the reality of something can hit them and I'm gonna throw this prayer out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It seemed like prayerful to me.
Our belief is pretty nuanced. So it's one of those things where if you believe that God is bad and terrible and maniacal and da-da-da-da-da, and then you believe that the devil is nice and he's on your side and that he wants to he wants to give people freedom and all this.
Yeah.
And then you're speaking to the devil because you're rejecting God. I mean, from my perspective, it's reversed.
Right.
Because the God that you're angry at is really the devil, and the devil that you want is really God.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's still a prayer to him in a sense, right? Because it's anything that you think is good about the devil is really what you see in the image of God and who God is. But that line, this line was pretty crazy. I cannot fall in love. Love is for them, lusting for the sky, heaven. And he's saying, that's for those people.
Yeah.
He doesn't want heaven. He wants to go down below. And I do think there are people that, for whatever reason, that they can't even explain supernaturally. Like they can't allow themselves to open themselves up to the love of God. Because it's so.
I would agree with that.
My eyes are shut, I cannot see, though clear is thy despair. I drift away far away from places of which you speak.
Seek.
though I seek thy hell, you close the gate before me. Your life is right, and I'm to follow to your paradise. Then he talks about not falling in love. Why did I come to this world of sorrow? Why is this true? Where is my dagger of sacrifice? I will open the gates to hell one day. Mm-hmm. So
he's saying he wants to go into hell, but
right.
that Satan hasn't opened the door for him to be able to go there.
Right. But it's interesting because he talks about thy despair, Satan's despair. Mm-hmm. So when he talks about the devil, it's about despair and death and the dagger. And then the one time he talks about maybe Christians, because love is for them. Who's them? I'm assuming lusting for the sky, heaven. I'm assuming that's us.
Mm-hmm. And there are groups of Christians that they can never be focused on where they're at. They're always like, heaven, heaven. It's all about heaven,
Well, it's just interesting to me that the one positive emotion he speaks about, he attributes to us.
Yeah.
And that's pretty instructive.
Yeah.
Because the one time he speaks of love, he attributes it to Christians. Mm-hmm. But he's saying that's not for me, which of course we don't believe. I mean, I'm pretty sure Mark has kids and all this now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think when you're young and you're alone or you're by yourself or something like that, it's a lot easier to say this stuff. But when you have kids,
yeah,
I mean, well, it can. I mean,
not everybody.
You're going to continue with that mindset. Love isn't for you, and da 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 da. Well, if that's true, then what are you going to give to your kids? Good night.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for real.
But that's one of the things. It's like I think it was Alec who told me that the leading cause of death for people under 30 is suicide. And then when you combine that with the fact that people are getting married much later and later in life, and those things change you. Mm-hmm. They change having children changes so much of your perspective, and I truly believe that you learn much of God when you start having kids. You learn a lot about God, whether you know it or not, when you start having kids. And so, it's what is it? That men have a stabilizing effect on women, and women have a civilizing effect on men, and children have a transformative effect on both. Because now you run into somebody who's completely and totally dependent on you, and loves you unconditionally, and you love them unconditionally. Like if somebody peed on you, you'd be like, "What the hell?" Mm-hmm. Your kid pees on you, you're like, it's
I know. I was never like that.
Throws up on you.
Change
you're
her, change me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously, but you would never. You don't feel offended. You don't feel insulted.
You're not like, I'm not holding that kid again. No.
So it's just
generally you laugh and then just clean it up. Yeah.
It's sometimes when I look at lyrics like that, I almost want to say like, if you just give yourself a chance to get to another phase of life,
Yeah.
If you just give yourself an opportunity to, and of course, it's not just kids. I mean, that's a big. I mean, I had a very big transformation that had nothing to do with kids. I mean, I was 18, 19 years old.
Yeah.
I had a very, very specific experience with God.
Oh, yeah.
Over a long, protracted period of time. It wasn't like a one-time thing. So.
How old were you when you got pregnant for Dorian?
I don't know.
I always thought you were a teenager.
No. But I was already well on my way.
He already had the 3 kids, and I already had 1 when we got together. For those of you who are confused, because lots of people think we had them all together.
Yeah. So it's a very weird. It's a strange idea to me that, and I don't know how much of this stuff he actually literally believes, because I don't really know, what his actual theology is. But it's strange to me that people have this idea that they belong in hell. Like,
yeah,
the concept of belonging is a concept that is relative to the image of God, because God is a Trinity.
Yeah.
And so because God has always existed in a community,
yep,
the concept of belonging is a divine idea. Mm-hmm. So in hell, everybody's a reject. Nobody belongs in hell.
That's a really interesting concept, honey. Well, I think that what happens is I think that people feel like, okay, how we talk about the shadow self, and you have your sin nature, part of you that's it's just bad. We all have parts of us. It's just bad.
Sure.
There's there's no like go around. Like there's some stuff that you do, well, I shouldn't have done that, but that's not. But then there's just some parts that's just downright bad.
Right.
And so I think that some people like kind of relate with that side of themselves more, and they think there's nothing for me in heaven. Like I can't relate with people up there. I can't be part of that. Like that's not me. I'm not them. They're not. You know what I mean? But then they think of hell as being a collection of people that or have been rejected, but they find that like how like metal is, like they find that camaraderie in the fact that they're all like kind of rejected or whatever. Like I think that's how they think hell is going to be like.
Yeah, but even if you're at a metal show and you're a black metal show, we experienced it at the Behemoth show.
Right, we did.
Where we were singing Happy Birthday to somebody before Behemoth got on stage.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how dark and quote-unquote satanic the gathering is. Those moments are because we still have the image of God on us.
Oh, well, yeah.
So even if you're saying, I can only relate to people that embrace their dark side, the fact that you can relate to them from a Christian perspective means that then you still have the image of God on you, because the compulsion toward community is an eternal an eternal concept. That's a divine attribute. That's an eternal attribute.
Right.
But
that is so interesting. I think you're right, though.
You're not going to have that in hell, because the image of God is going to be taken from you.
Right.
So it's just going to be nothing but, and that's why in Daniel, one of the descriptions of hell is that the unrighteous go to shame and everlasting contempt. Well, who's there to have contempt for them? We're not going to be there, and God's not going to be there. So where is the everlasting contempt? It's for each other. They have contempt for each other. So the person that you see in hell, you're not going to go, hey, buddy, rock and roll. You're going to hate that person, and that person's going to hate you.
Everlasting.
So it's not like it's going to be some big party down there.
Right.
But this is what I mean when I say people have no idea what it means when they say they want God out of their life. Because God's there at the Behemoth show.
Right.
He's there at the Vate show.
Right.
Yikes. And the fact that you're with people, and even with Nergal, he's like, I hail you guys, and blah 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 blah, and he was very loving to the crowd. That's the image of God on Nergal.
Right.
That's God saying that He hails those people, He loves them. So I get it. I get the idea. I just think that the yearning for community and things like that. Sometimes I wonder if people believed that they had a shot at being reconciled to God.
If they believed they did?
If they thought that they could.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder how that would affect their perspectives on these concepts.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Or maybe he believes he's going to open the gates of hell and be by himself and be full of shame and everlasting contempt for the people around him. Who knows? What do you give the song?
9.
Yeah, it's a very, very high-ranking song. I think this was very heavy. It started out very, very heavy at the beginning, and the beginning
part was so pretty, though.
And right,
sucked me right into some spiritual place.
It went a lot of different places in a very short period of time.
It really did, yeah, because it was only a 5-minute song.
Yeah, and I was very actually impressed with the
musicianship,
melody of the solos.
Yes.
I love when people don't try to get too complex and crazy with stuff, because it just didn't fit in the song. Like doing a whole bunch of scale work and sweeps just wouldn't. But like this was perfect. I loved it. I love the minor keys. So I'll bump it up to a 9.5. It's a good song.
I'll give it a 9.5 too.
Good song. Shout out to the big homie. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.